Welcome back to our discussion, Pax Europiana, about various aspects of European economic and political reform now in the year 2020 and what is needed to respond to the challenges we face. Now in this video, I would like to focus on the Kosovo War and the interpretation of events on the Kosovo Liberation War, the Balkan Liberation War I call it. But I would like to start, because it's the 5th of May, it's a very important day of commemoration for Austria, for Europe, and it's the day of the liberation of the Mauthausen concentration camp. Today, at the 5th of May in the year 45, and this very terrible place was liberated by American forces, and it's commemorated every day since in Upper Austria, where I come from, and also, as I have already called, I think it's a very good idea to turn the 5th of May as well in a European official EU commemoration day and to mark this liberation of the KZ Mauthausen, and also to have this Austrian specific guilt responsibility debate also on a European level very clearly marked and also commemorated our co-responsibility for the terrible events of World War II, the Holocaust, the many crimes against so many people. It was very terrible. This is very important. And also thanks for the liberation of Austria, of Germany, from this terrible dictatorship of the Nazis. And it was really, thank you very much, that's I want to say. Because I don't want to be misunderstood, because I'm always talking about how evil the Soviet Union was. You know, it definitely, as well, the Soviet Union has liberated Austria and Germany and Europe from the terrible Nazi regime. You know, just not overstaying the invitation. That's always the problem between liberation and occupation. Staying 10 years afterwards was definitely not necessary. And this neutrality, you know, anyhow, we have discussed that already. So, okay, let's celebrate the 5th of May, but you will ask, how is that now connected with the Kosovo War? I was in the social media now in a very interesting debate with a very good friend of mine, who is one of the leading advocates in Europe for freedom for Crimea. He's himself from Crimea, and he talked about his political development, and this was very much connected. You know, he was in a confused period, and he told that the start of his political activity was the, from himself, perceived injustice about the NATO intervention in Kosovo. And I understand, you know, people who live in the Russian media world and receive the Russian version of facts, in the year 1990 might have some kind of confused perspective, because simply they never heard what happened before. They just saw then the military intervention. They saw then pictures specifically of Serb youth on these Danube bridges. They saw then the bombing of Belgrade, and you know, they were certainly seeing a certain perspective of that, which leads now to the fact to 2020 in a certain kind of misperceptions. And because I'm very much focused on Eastern Europe in my activities, I'm also very much interested, you know, in that countries from the Eastern Partnership, and I call on all them to recognize Kosovo, that Serbia and Kosovo recognize each other, that Bosnia recognizes Kosovo, but also that the Central Asian countries recognize Kosovo. But I understand this does not happen when there is still this kind of wrong narrative. It's obviously not a Putin narrative, but it's very much connected to Putin's rise. Never forget, there is a very tight connection between the Kosovo War, between the Second Chechen War, and between the rise of Putin to power. So he is very much, you know, building his personal case and the whole system behind him. And they were really very much seeing the Kosovo War and as a disgrace for the then Russian establishment, and they were basically overthrowing internally, and this kind of Yeltsin time, end of regime establishment. Chernomyrdin will come to your remember, if you remember, and they were seeing all this elite as too weak. They saw that the West is simply doing what the West wants, and so they were interpreting that kind of events. And then they orchestrated all this event with the Second War of Chechnya. You will maybe have read these books about the apartment bombings and all these tragic events with many hundreds and thousands of people killed in Chechnya, in the Second Chechen War, the siege of Chechnya, and then the situation that Putin now since 20 years is the president. Yeah? And it's all very much connected to this timeline of the Kosovo War, the Chechen War, the rise of Putin. So now it's very important to see what really happened. We have to go back to the facts, yeah, and understand that there was no kind of bombing somewhere recklessly and suppressing the Serbs, which were good people, well governed, and some kind of colonial style intervention, brutality of the West. No, this is not exactly what happened, and exactly not at all. What really happened, and we have to be very, very clear and learn the facts and understand what really happened. It was a big power struggle Sorry.